I thought, they had a terrible, terrible row after Meghan had gone to abroad to talk about never do this with your children, put them in front of the television. They had a massive, massive row. And I think this is Harry trying to make her feel better. You see, all those are not smiling, and she can manipulate him. And I feel that that's what she's done.
Something has changed, and you can feel it everywhere. It's in the tone of the headlines, the tougher questions being asked, and the noticeable silence from Meghan Markle's team whenever those difficult topics come up. For years, a carefully crafted image surrounded her daughter Lilibet. The mystery, the rare appearances, the polished snapshots of life in sunny California. But now that image is facing new scrutiny, and the person raising the biggest questions isn't a tabloid reporter, a palace source, or a longtime Sussex critic. It's Angela Levin, Prince Harry's authorized biographer. She's the woman who spent months speaking with Harry, getting rare access to his life and perspective. Now, Levin appears far less interested in carefully chosen words. Her recent comments about Meghan, Lilibet, the photographs, the AI claims, and even Archie's reduced public presence have grabbed attention because they come from someone who was once trusted with extraordinary access. Levin isn't presenting herself as someone relying on rumors. She spent significant time with Harry and gained insights few people ever had. That's why her comments stand out. They challenge parts of the public narrative that Meghan and Harry have presented over the years, raising fresh questions about how that story has been shaped, and the timing couldn't be more important. These remarks arrive while the Sussex brand faces growing public and commercial pressure. At the same time, debates around Harry's public statements and actions continue to spark discussion. Against that backdrop, Levin seems to have decided to speak more directly than ever about what she believes is really happening. What Angela Levin believes is happening paints a much different picture than the one the public usually sees.
That's my view about it, and she would be very pleased, but she'll do this absolutely hideous thing of using an AI thing to have somebody look rather strange, because the face is very strange. It's not right. You can see it's not a natural strain.
What makes this moment stand out isn't just one controversy, it's several issues piling up at the same time. The Sussex brand is facing challenges. Questions about the photographs continue to circulate, and Levin is speaking with a level of bluntness that has caught a lot of attention. At the same time, Harry's stance on children and social media is being examined more closely than ever. Critics argue that some of his public actions don't fully match his public messaging. Even supporters who once rushed to defend him are finding themselves facing tougher questions. None of these stories exist in isolation. They keep connecting, growing, and adding more pressure to an already complicated situation. And for Meghan Markle, who has often been praised for shaping and managing her public image, there doesn't seem to be an easy response right now. That's why this story is drawing so much interest. Rather than focusing on polished headlines, attention is shifting toward the accounts and opinions of people closely connected to the situation.
There's a huge hypocrisy here given Catherine, Catherine suffering from cancer was hauled over the coals, especially in the American mainstream media. Yet Meghan sort of posts these pictures which all appear to be artificially altered. The actual pictures of the children, which are always so weird.
Leading that conversation is Angela Levin, whose recent comments carry extra weight because of her past access to Harry and her long history covering the royal family. The latest chapter begins with the birthday photographs. Lilibet recently celebrated her 5th birthday, and Meghan marked the occasion in a familiar way through carefully selected social media images. The photos featured warm family moments, soft California sunshine, and a picture of a peaceful, happy life. They also reinforced the image Meghan has often presented publicly, someone sharing a personal family milestone despite years of intense public attention and criticism. But the reaction wasn't the warm response many expected. Instead, it sparked a fresh wave of questions. People examined the photos closely, and Sussex-related images often receive intense scrutiny because every release tends to generate discussion. As some viewers looked over the birthday pictures, they pointed to details they felt seemed unusual, leading to online debates about the images and how they were created. One of the loudest voices in that conversation was writer Paula Froelich. She compared the birthday photos and branding materials connected to Meghan's As Ever venture with content from a California children's clothing company called Little Olives.
This could be a total coincidence. Of course it could be. But my point is that it is Meghan who is encouraging this speculation about the identity of her own daughter. That's what I find creepy.
Froelich argued that there were similarities she believed were worth examining, and those observations quickly gained attention across social media and entertainment coverage. According to Froelich, she also used Google's Gemini AI to review promotional copy associated with the brands. She claimed the analysis suggested similarities in structure and wording between the materials. Supporters of that view saw it as evidence of a pattern, while others argued that branding language often follows common marketing formulas. Either way, the discussion spread fast and added another layer to an already growing controversy. What makes the timing so notable is that this was supposed to be a straightforward family milestone. Lilibet's 5th birthday could have been a simple celebration, with photos shared to mark the occasion. Instead, the images became part of a much larger public debate involving branding, authenticity, and online speculation. Whether those concerns are justified or not, the conversation has become impossible to ignore, and the attention surrounding it continues to grow.
Actually, if she were just to post normal pictures like a normal woman, then everyone would be able to speak and talk about Lily normally.
The argument from critics is that this debate didn't appear out of nowhere. It grew from choices Meghan herself made about how her family is presented publicly. Could some of the similarities and questions people point to be coincidence? Absolutely. California is filled with lifestyle brands that share similar looks, themes, and marketing styles. Even so, online discussions have continued because every new image seems to generate another round of speculation. A big part of that speculation centers on the long-running mystery surrounding Lilibet's public appearances. Critics argue that this isn't something that was forced on Meghan. Instead, they believe it developed over years through carefully limited photos and highly controlled glimpses of family life. As a result, every new image is examined in extraordinary detail, and even small details quickly become major talking points. That's where Angela Levin's comments have attracted so much attention. Her main point is surprisingly simple. She argues that if more ordinary family photos had been shared over the years, many of these theories and debates might never have gained traction. No endless online investigations, no constant questions, and no wave of speculation attached to every image that gets released. From Levin's perspective, the mystery didn't simply happen on its own. It grew because of the way the public narrative was managed. She has been especially critical of how much attention and guessing now surrounds a young child. In her view, what should have been a straightforward family story has instead become a topic of worldwide debate, and that's why she finds the situation so troubling and unusual.
As said, he's in a rush to make his mark and seems to treat life as a race too. He explained to me, "I want to make something of my life. I now feel there is just a smallish window when people are interested in me before Prince George take over, and I've got to make the most of it."
Critics argue that the intense public curiosity surrounding Lilibet didn't develop by accident. In their view, it was the predictable outcome of years of limited access, carefully selected images, and a highly managed public presentation. Whether that criticism is fair or not, the result is clear. Every new photo now attracts enormous attention and endless speculation. At the same time, Meghan has consistently framed many of these decisions around privacy and protecting her children. For many people, that's a compelling argument. Most parents want to keep their children safe, and concerns about media attention are understandable. That message has been a central part of Meghan's public image for years, helping explain why certain details of family life remain private. Supporters see those choices as reasonable safeguards. Critics see them differently. They argue that the contrast between sharing selected family moments while withholding others creates confusion and invites more questions than it answers. As a result, debates that might have faded away often end up growing larger instead. This is where Angela Levin's comments have gained attention. Rather than relying on dramatic accusations, she points to specific events, timelines, and changes she believes she's observed over the years. Because she spent considerable time with Harry while researching his biography, her views carry extra weight with people who follow the royal story closely. Levin often compares the Harry she came to know years ago with the public figure she sees today. She has spoken about what she viewed as his ambitions, his desire to make a positive impact, and the qualities she admired during their conversations. Looking at the present situation, she suggests that significant changes have taken place, and she doesn't hide her disappointment. For Levin, the contrast between past and present is dramatic, which is why her recent remarks have drawn so much attention and sparked so much discussion.
The problem you've got here in a relationship with Meghan and Harry is this is a boy that was pretty much traumatized by media presence when he was little. He didn't really want any of this publicity. He was always attacking photographers. She's someone, ever since she was on the red carpet, who's craved publicity.
Angela Levin summed up her view with a comment that quickly gained attention. If she were just to post normal pictures like a normal woman, then everyone would be able to speak and talk about Lily normally rather than this sort of internet hunt to find the real Lily, which actually is really horrible. For Levin, the ongoing speculation exists because so much mystery has surrounded the public images over the years, turning ordinary family photos into major discussion points. The situation became even more controversial when reports surfaced suggesting that Harry was supportive of the photographs. According to accounts discussed by royal correspondent Rob Shooter, Harry was not reluctantly accepting the images, but was reportedly comfortable with sharing them. That claim immediately fueled debate because it seemed to clash with positions he has expressed in the past regarding children, privacy, and social media exposure. Critics were quick to highlight what they saw as a contradiction. They pointed to Harry's previous public comments about the risks children face online and questioned whether his current approach aligns with those earlier concerns. Supporters, however, argue that circumstances change and that parents often adjust their views as family situations evolve. The disagreement has become yet another flashpoint in the broader conversation surrounding the Sussexes. Levin remains skeptical of the idea that this is simply a natural evolution in Harry's thinking. She has suggested that major shifts in his public positions have followed a familiar pattern over the years. In her view, disagreements eventually give way to a new consensus, and that process has repeated itself more than once. What Levin finds most significant is not one decision, but the larger transformation she believes has taken place. She often contrasts Harry's current public role with the one he occupied years ago: his ties to family, long-time friendships, charitable work, and royal responsibilities. Whether people agree with her assessment or not, Levin argues that the change has been profound, and that belief sits at the center of her criticism today. Critics often ask a difficult question. What has Harry gained from all the sacrifices and public battles of the past several years? Their answer is rarely flattering. They point to reports of tension surrounding the Sussex brand, ongoing scrutiny of business ventures, and persistent media stories about challenges facing Harry and Meghan's public image.
Catherine, you can see, has helped make her husband, William, so much better. He knows what it's like being a father. He knows what it's like being a husband. He's learned it.
From that perspective, the picture that emerges is of someone caught between two worlds. Harry has made major decisions that reshaped his relationships, his role, and his future. Returning to his old life would come with challenges, while moving forward hasn't necessarily delivered the peace and freedom many expected. As a result, commentators continue to debate whether the California chapter has truly fulfilled its promise. Supporters argue that public appearances reveal very little about a person's private reality. Critics disagree, claiming Harry often appears burdened by the pressures surrounding him. Either way, the discussion continues because so much of his journey has played out in front of a global audience, making every new development a subject of intense analysis. Angela Levin's perspective draws attention because she knew Harry before many of these changes took place. She spent time with him when he was focused on future projects, charitable ambitions, and the role he hoped to build for himself. In interviews and commentary, she has often spoken about the qualities she believed defined him during that period and why she found him easy to support. Over time, Levin has become increasingly vocal about what she sees as a dramatic shift. Referring to Harry's current situation, she remarked, "Look at his face and he can't do it because he still loves her or, whatever his reason is." That statement reflects her personal interpretation, but it has attracted attention because it comes from someone who once had rare access to him and followed his story closely for years. While much of the recent conversation has centered on Lilibet, another topic has quietly surfaced among royal watchers: Archie's much lower public profile. Some commentators have noted that Archie appears far less often in public discussions and shared family content. For critics, that raises questions about how the Sussex family chooses to present its story. For supporters, it is simply another example of parents deciding to keep parts of their children's lives private and away from public attention. One of the questions some critics continue to raise is the difference in how Archie and Lilibet appear in the Sussex public narrative. They argue that Archie has become far less visible in family-related content and public discussions, while Lilibet is mentioned more frequently in recent coverage and social media conversations. For those critics, this raises questions about consistency. They argue that if privacy is the primary goal, both children would be presented in similar ways. Others disagree, pointing out that parents often make different decisions for different children based on age, personality, circumstances, or simple family preference.
Now then, tell me, that happened 10 years ago, right? Now, if he can't think of a way to do something better over 10 years, I've got no sympathy for him.
From that perspective, differences in visibility do not automatically point to a larger strategy. Still, the debate continues because public interest in Lilibet tends to be especially high. Commentators often note that her name, her connection to royal history, and the symbolism attached to her story naturally attract attention. As a result, discussions involving Lilibet frequently generate stronger engagement than many other Sussex-related topics. Angela Levin has been among those who have questioned this imbalance. Because of her long history covering Harry and her access to him while writing his authorized biography, her comments tend to receive significant attention. Levin has suggested that the difference in public focus between the two children deserves closer examination, particularly given how central family themes have been to the Sussex brand over the years. What makes this topic resonate with many people is a broader concern about family dynamics. Children are often aware of differences in attention, recognition, and visibility, even if those differences are unintentional. However, it's impossible to know how Archie himself feels or will feel in the future. Any conclusions about his personal experience would be speculation. What remains clear is that the discussion has become part of a larger debate about privacy, public image, and how high-profile families choose to share their lives with the world. The business side of this story is an important part of the wider debate. The questions surrounding the photographs, the AI discussions, and the conversation about Archie are all unfolding while Meghan's lifestyle brand faces intense public scrutiny. Because of that, many commentators see these issues as connected rather than completely separate events. When as ever launched, it received enormous media attention. The brand was presented as a reflection of Meghan's personal interests and lifestyle, centered on themes like beauty, simplicity, and everyday living. Expectations were high, especially given the global recognition attached to the Sussex name. But as with many celebrity-backed ventures, attention alone doesn't guarantee long-term success. Critics argue that the brand has struggled to meet the lofty expectations created during its launch. Reports and commentary have questioned whether the business has been able to convert publicity into sustained momentum. While the company's internal performance isn't fully known to the public, the discussion around its future has become increasingly common in entertainment and royal coverage. One topic that has drawn attention is the role of outside influencers in promoting the brand. Some observers have pointed to creator Olivia McDowell and argued that her product presentations appear more natural or relatable. Whether people agree with that assessment or not, the comparison has fueled debate about the effectiveness of Meghan's own marketing approach and how the brand is being positioned moving forward. More broadly, critics have questioned the original premise behind the Sussex commercial strategy. The expectation was that Harry's royal profile and Meghan's entertainment background would create lasting business opportunities. While those factors certainly generated interest, some commentators believe maintaining that attention has proven more difficult than initially expected. That brings the conversation back to family-related content. Critics argue that moments involving the children often arrive during periods of heightened public focus on the brand,
rather than this sort of internet hunt to find the real Lily, which actually is really horrible.
Supporters strongly reject the idea that family milestones are being used for commercial purposes, viewing such claims as unfair speculation. Still, the debate remains active, and Angela Levin has been among those openly questioning whether the public messaging around privacy fully matches what people are seeing unfold. The Hello magazine moment became a major talking point, because some critics saw it as revealing how celebrity coverage can sometimes blur the line between promotion and journalism. During a red carpet interview with actress Abigail Spencer, comments made on camera sparked discussion about the nature of the publication's relationship with Meghan and how certain stories are presented to the public. For critics, the exchange reinforced a belief they have held for years, that some celebrity and royal coverage can be highly favorable and driven by access, relationships, or publicity goals rather than hard-edged reporting. Supporters, however, argue that lifestyle and entertainment media have always operated differently from investigative journalism, making such coverage less surprising than critics suggest. Either way, the incident fueled a broader conversation about why certain questions surrounding Meghan and the Sussex brand received limited attention for so long. Some observers believe concerns about photographs, branding, and public messaging were present for years, but rarely gained traction outside online discussions. Others argue there simply wasn't enough evidence to justify greater scrutiny at the time. What has changed, according to commentators, is the growing number of established voices now weighing in. Writers like Paula Froelich and royal commentators, such as Angela Levin, have brought these topics into more mainstream discussions. Because these figures have recognizable public profiles and professional experience, their comments tend to attract far more attention than anonymous online speculation. As a result, the conversation has continued to build. Questions that once circulated only among dedicated royal watchers are now reaching wider audiences and generating fresh debate.
Look at his face. And he can't do it because he still loves her, or, whatever his reason is. He doesn't want to say, whoops, I made a big mistake.
Whether those concerns ultimately prove significant or not, the story has moved beyond isolated rumors and become part of a much larger discussion about media coverage, public image, and the Sussex brand itself. Critics of Meghan often frame her story as one of enormous opportunity followed by growing controversy. They point out that she entered royal life with significant public support, a global platform, and the chance to shape a lasting legacy. In their view, the years that followed have been marked by public disputes, fractured relationships, and ongoing questions surrounding the Sussex brand, rather than the kind of impact many once expected. That perspective is one reason Angela Levin's comments continue to attract attention. Levin has spoken frequently about the Harry she knew years ago, a prince she believed was focused on purpose, service, and building something meaningful for the future. Looking at where events have led, she has made it clear that she sees a very different outcome than the one she once imagined. Levin has recalled conversations in which Harry spoke about making the most of his position and using his influence while public interest remained strong. More than a decade later, she argues that the opportunity itself did not disappear. Instead, she believes a series of decisions changed the direction of his life and public role. That belief sits at the center of much of her criticism today. As with many royal debates, comparisons between the Sussexes and the Prince and Princess of Wales frequently emerge. Supporters of William and Catherine often point to the way they handle family matters, highlighting decisions that are announced sparingly and discussed with relatively little public commentary. One recent example involved Prince George's reported plans for secondary school, a topic that generated interest but was largely handled without extensive public promotion. Advocates of that approach argue that privacy is best demonstrated through consistency rather than messaging. They point to George, Charlotte, and Louis as examples of children who occasionally appear at major public events but are otherwise kept largely outside day-to-day media campaigns.
She's helped him. So you need, if you want a partner, to find someone who's going to help you in your life, not someone who's going to be negative and moan. She moans everything all the time.
Supporters view that balance as a practical way to prepare the children for public life while still protecting much of their personal lives. Critics of Meghan draw a sharp contrast between those approaches and the Sussex strategy. Supporters, however, argue that the situations are fundamentally different and that comparisons are often unfair. Regardless of where people stand, the differences in how the two families manage public visibility have become a major part of the ongoing conversation and one that continues to generate intense debate. Angela Levin has been very direct about what she believes the future holds for Harry and Meghan's relationship with the royal family. In her view, a return to the inner workings of royal life is highly unlikely, not because of personal grudges, but because of deeper concerns about trust and stability within the institution itself. According to Levin and other commentators, the events that followed the Sussexes' departure left lasting damage. Public interviews, media disputes, legal battles, and disagreements played out on a global stage. Whether people sympathize more with Harry and Meghan or with the royal family, few would deny that those years created significant tension that still shapes perceptions today. A recurring theme in these discussions is trust. Critics argue that rebuilding a relationship becomes extremely difficult when both sides continue to disagree publicly about past events. From that perspective, reconciliation requires more than time. It requires confidence that old conflicts will not simply repeat themselves. Supporters of Harry and Meghan, of course, would likely view the situation very differently, but the trust question remains at the center of the debate. Levin has also spoken about King Charles and the personal toll these family divisions may have taken, Like many royal commentators, she suggests there is a human dimension behind the headlines, a father, a son, and a relationship that has become increasingly complicated over time. While outsiders can only speculate about private feelings, the emotional aspect of the story continues to resonate with many observers. For Levin, the possibility of a simple, clean reconciliation appears remote. She argues that the circumstances have become far more complicated than they were when Harry and Meghan first stepped away from royal duties. Years of public disagreements, competing narratives, and damaged relationships have made the path forward much harder than anyone may have expected. Levin also contrasted Harry's situation with William's relationship with Catherine, saying, "Catherine has helped make William so much better. He knows what it's like being a father. He knows what it's like being a husband. He's learnt it. She's helped him. So if you want a partner, you need to find someone who's going to help you in your life, not someone who's going to be negative and moan." The comment reflects Levin's personal opinion, but it has become one of her most widely discussed observations in the ongoing debate surrounding the royal family. That remark attracted attention because Levin wasn't simply talking about personality differences. She was making a much broader argument about influence, relationships, and the direction Harry's life has taken over the past several years. In her view, the people closest to someone can either strengthen their path or help push them toward a very different one. Levin frequently contrasts Harry's journey with William's, arguing that William benefited from a partnership she believes provided stability and support. Whether people agree with that comparison or not, it has become a central theme in her commentary. She sees the brothers as having taken dramatically different paths, with very different outcomes. At the heart of Levin's criticism is her belief that many of the controversies surrounding the Sussexes are not random events. She argues that the ongoing debate around Lilibet's public image, the questions about family privacy, and the intense scrutiny surrounding photographs are all connected to deliberate decisions about how the Sussex story has been presented to the public. Critics share that view, while supporters strongly reject it and argue that many of these claims rely on assumptions rather than facts. Levin has also suggested that there are potential long-term consequences whenever children become part of highly public discussions. Commentators have debated the effects of public attention, media speculation, and online scrutiny for years. While no one can know how Archie or Lilibet will view these events in the future, the subject continues to generate strong opinions because it touches on privacy, family life, and public image all at once. For Levin, the larger issue extends beyond any single photograph or media controversy. She argues that the cumulative effect of years of public disputes, branding efforts, and family tensions has shaped the current situation. That perspective is one reason her comments continue to resonate with audiences who have followed the Sussex story closely over time. As the debate continues, one question keeps surfacing among critics and supporters alike. Someday, both Archie and Lilibet will be old enough to explore the vast amount of information written about their family online. When that day comes, what version of the story will stand out most? Will it be the carefully presented public narrative, the endless speculation from critics, or something entirely different that emerges with time and distance? That question remains unanswered, but it is one that continues to linger as the conversation around the Sussex family evolves. If Archie and Lilibet one day search their family history online, they will likely encounter an enormous range of opinions, headlines, debates, and commentary. That's the reality of growing up connected to one of the most talked about families in the world. The internet preserves praise, criticism, speculation, and controversy alike, often long after the original stories have faded from public attention. They may come across discussions about photographs, debates over privacy, questions raised by commentators, and countless articles examining decisions made by their parents. They may also find opinions from writers such as Angela Levin, investigations and commentary from journalists, and years of public arguments surrounding the Sussex brand. Whether those claims are fair, unfair, accurate, or misguided, they will remain part of the public record. That reality leads to a question many observers have raised: how will the children view all of it when they are old enough to form their own conclusions? Will they see parents who worked hard to protect them from public pressure, or will they view certain decisions differently? The truth is that nobody can know the answer today because those perspectives belong to Archie and Lilibet alone. What makes the discussion so compelling is that it goes beyond royal drama and celebrity headlines. It touches on larger questions about privacy, public image, family decisions, and what happens when children grow up in the spotlight. Those are issues that resonate far beyond the Sussex story itself, and that is why the current debate continues to gain attention. Critics argue that there is a widening gap between the message the Sussexes have presented and the public perception that has developed around them. Supporters strongly disagree and maintain that many criticisms are driven by unfair assumptions and endless scrutiny. Either way, the conversation has become increasingly difficult to ignore, and it now centers on one of the biggest questions in the entire Sussex saga: whether the public story and the underlying reality truly match up in the way many people once believed they did. As critics like Angela Levin see it, the public narrative surrounding the Sussexes looks very different today than it did just a few years ago. They argue that many decisions presented as deeply personal have also carried significant public and commercial consequences. Whether people agree with that assessment or not, it has become a central part of the debate surrounding Harry, Meghan, and their brand. Levin has suggested that public attention, business pressures, family privacy, and media strategy are all more connected than they may appear. She has also questioned the differences in how Archie and Lilibet feature in the family's public story, arguing that those choices deserve closer examination. Supporters of the Sussexes reject many of these claims, but the discussion continues to gain momentum because of the people raising the questions. What gives Levin's comments extra attention is her history with Harry. She didn't emerge as a critic overnight. She spent considerable time with him while writing his authorized biography and has often spoken about the admiration she once had for his goals, personality, and potential. Because of that background, her disappointment carries a different tone than that of commentators who were always skeptical from the start. Levin's recent remarks reflect what she sees as a long-term change rather than a single controversy. In her view, the story is about years of decisions that gradually altered the direction of Harry's life and public image. That perspective may be debated, but it explains why her observations continue to resonate with many people following the royal story. The broader point Levin makes is that difficult conversations do not disappear simply because they are uncomfortable. Once questions enter the public discussion, especially when they are raised by established commentators and journalists, they tend to keep evolving and attracting attention. That is exactly what is happening now, and the debate shows no signs of fading anytime soon. If today's video gave you something to think about, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. Turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think happens next for Harry, Meghan, and the royal family? We'd love to hear your perspective.